Welcome back to the channel, guys. A little Zen moment brought to you by Vanquish products. And this is the Vanquish Phoenix Portal. I've had this truck for a little while now. I got it used, I got it on a trade, and I am loving this thing. You'll see it has a different look now than when it did in my previous video. I stripped the paint down, which is something I also have a video on if you guys want to check out. You can look in my playlists and you'll see how-tos, and you can see how I stripped the paint on my SCX6, and I've done it with some other vehicles. And there's a product called Strip It Gold, which is a paint remover that is perfectly safe for Lexan. So I was able to strip the paint off of the body and start with a fresh, new, clear body. And I saw this kind of paint scheme online. I believe it was on an Element truck, and I liked it, so I kind of copied it, and happy with it, how it turned out. I think it looks good. So, and I'm not going to be easy on this truck. As you can see, this is some extreme rock crawling. I think it's even a little extreme for what, I mean, the Phoenix to me seems like it's a trail truck, right? It's not like a straight up comp crawler. It's definitely more of a trail truck, but its capabilities are really amazing. You can just see in this terrain where this is just really hardcore rock crawling, like almost bouldering. And it's able to make it through a lot of sections here that kind of surprised me how well it does, especially for something with, you know, a full body. Even though the wheels are pretty much exposed, there's no real, you know, fenders covering it, and it has very good approach and departure angles. But for something that has a full body and has an interior and has a really cool scale look, I am kind of blown away at the capabilities of this truck. So if you're considering getting a Phoenix, I highly recommend it. You know, I think even the straight axle, depending on the terrain you're running in, straight axle, Portal, I don't think you can go wrong with either. For this terrain in particular, I really like the Portals. You know, it gives you that extra bit of clearance just so your axles don't get hung up on little pointy rocks like right there. But yeah, overall, I think there are benefits to both. So you really have to kind of figure out what type of terrain you drive on. Straight axles would be better for maybe if you crawl more on like slab type rock where you do a lot of extreme side hilling. That straight axle kit is going to lower your center of gravity a bit and maybe work out better for you. So you kind of just have to figure out what type of terrain you drive on. But for me, in this, I do like the Portals. So don't really have any major modifications done to this. It is running a Hobbywing Fusion Pro. These are RC four-wheel drive Patagonia tires, and I currently have the Endura silicone inserts in these. These are the blue compound, which is their medium compound, and it is pretty much perfect for this rig with these tires. This is the perfect you know, squishiness to these inserts. And I do have the ones in the front. I did cut every other row of the vertical inserts on the Endura inserts. They are tunable in that way, where you can go out and snip out some of the vertical sections to make them a little more compliant. So this rig, I forget the exact weight, but I want to say it's in that upper 8, maybe even 9 pound range. These wheels are fairly heavy, and they do have brass rings, brass beadlock rings on the front. Don't really have any other brass on this truck, but it still is fairly heavy. So I am running this in I do have all the features enabled on this with all the servo, so I am running this in the high overdrive setting, which really helps in these conditions. So really cool that it has that option, because for a trail rig, I think the high overdrive setting, which I don't quote me on this, but I think it's in the 30% range, maybe even 33. It's definitely too high for just standard trailing. It does have a negative effect on the handling of the truck on just average trails, or even more like slab type rock where you're side hilling. Because if you think about it, your front and rear wheels are traveling at a very different rate of speed, so you're always breaking traction on one end or the other. And if you are trying to side hill, a lot of times that will cause the vehicle to slide a bit. So there's definitely good and bad involved with this amount of overdrive. So it's very nice to have the ability to switch between a high and a low setting. I think that is a huge benefit to the VFD twin transmission that these vehicles come with. So this does have an upgraded servo. I can't even remember. If you look at my previous video, I can't remember what brand it is. HKS. I forget. But it's super noisy. It works well enough. I don't think I would buy one for a crawler. They are quite noisy, but it works good. So I'm gonna leave it in there. But yeah, really happy with the performance of this. Stock suspension. I believe this was a kit, so I believe the guy I got it from probably built it up with whatever the recommended shock fluid is, and I haven't messed with it since then, and it works extremely well. So I don't have any plans to make any serious changes to this just based on its performance. I'm really happy with it. I do want to pick up the light kit. I think that's going to be really cool. I think the Vanquish light kit for this, or the Incision light kit, looks super cool and seems to be very high quality and very bright. So I definitely want to pick that up in the very near future. Maybe I'll do an install on it. Seems pretty straightforward. Maybe I'll do a video on it. We'll see, but you'll definitely see the lights installed and enabled in the future video. And here, the other benefit of the silicone inserts is you can run it in water, and you don't have to worry about your tire foam degrading or having to pull it apart to dry out the foam or the tires. So I like running through water. I know it's not the best for RCs, but you know, everything in here is waterproof, so or at the very least water resistant. So I'm careful to dry it out good afterward and kind of lubricate everything. So there's definitely more maintenance involved if you do run in water, but you know, I don't know. I'm like a little kid. If I see water or stream I can play in, I just can't resist. I think it's too much fun to avoid. So I have to say, you know, looking back at this video, I wasn't really impressed with the performance of these RC four-wheel drive tires initially. They did come with, like I said, I got this truck used, so it was already, it didn't come stock, you know. So these had Crawler Innovation dual stage foams in these exact tires, and they were okay. They didn't really hook up great, especially on really rocky terrain like this. And I'm always kind of shocked by how much of a tire's performance really depends, really comes down to the insert. You know, I don't think an insert can make a bad tire great, but I think the wrong insert can make a great tire bad. And I've had that experience. Even J-Concept ruptures on my Rift crawler, they're the 2.2s. I had a 3D printed insert in those, and it was too stiff. They worked like crap. It was pretty horrible. And I had switched over to Proline dual stage inserts, and blown away by how much better it was. And you know, I know the ruptures are phenomenal. It's probably one of the best tires I've used in my terrain, and I was kind of shocked by how bad they could be with the wrong insert. So I will say that's my advice to you guys, just, you know, overall in this video, is just pointing out, you know, experiment a little bit with different inserts. If your tires are, you know, if they're okay, but they're not great, try different inserts. You never know what works. And a lot of times I found that what seems like it will be a good fit and what feels good on the workbench doesn't always translate into actual performance. You know, you might put an insert in a tire where it seems like it doesn't fit right, and you have a little bit too much like space, like say the insert is a little too small for the tire. I mean, go out and try it anyway. Sometimes that's actually better, where you get a little bit of sagginess, a little bit of airspace between the insert and the tire. Sometimes it works and it helps the tire lugs just grab and grip the terrain better. So, you know, with bead locks, hey, you know, they're removable, or you know, you can disassemble them for a reason. Don't be afraid to experiment and pull things apart. Don't just throw an insert in there and be like, it is what it is, and run it for a year. You know, what's great with these Endura inserts, or just in general, I feel like lately you can find a lot of inserts that are pretty affordable. You know, these Enjoras are $20 for a set, so you can really experiment. You know, you can try, the green ones are the softest, you know, the blue are the intermediate, the red, I haven't tried the red yet, but apparently they're extremely stiff from what I've seen in other videos. So if you have a really heavy rig, that might be a good option. But again, you can tune these, you can trim them, tune them. There are other affordable options. There's if you look on Amazon, there's a brand called Timtins, Timtin, and they are a Proline copy, you know, and they are a pretty close facsimile of what Proline dual stage inserts are, and they're, I think, $15 for a set of 4, and you can experiment with just using the inner, different outer foams. You can do the cheap hair bun donut maker things. They're just mesh donuts you can buy online for doing different hairstyles, and you can do a layer of those. You can do a layer of other fridge foam on the outside. You know, a lot of options when it comes to inserts, so don't be afraid to experiment, because it always amazes me that, you know, you can take a tire that's just okay and try a different insert and it becomes, you know, 10 times better. So that's what I find anyway. Aside from that, I love, you know, the Hobbywing Fusion. It is by far my favorite, you know, option for motor ESC combos. Not only is it, you can see the wheel speed this thing has. I believe this is an 1800 in here. It's positioned in a way where I can't really see, and I haven't had it out yet to check it, but I think it's an 1800. It is the Pro version, but it has, you know, really good wheel speed for punching it up and over obstacles like that. But the slow crawlability on the Fusion, it, to me, is just unmatched by any other setup. I've had Castle setups, I have Rhino ESCs, Outrunners, and I just think none of them really match the insane slow crawl ability of a Fusion. I mean, I have, you know, Fusions where you could literally sit and watch the spur gear rotate like it's like hands on a clock, and, you know, you might get one full rotation every 45-50 seconds, and it's so incredibly slow and precise and controlled, and just the torque is there with the FOC system. It just works so well. And then the added benefit of just having, you know, a plug-and-play system. You can just slap it in. The wiring is super neat and easy. You don't have to find a position for your ESC. And they're waterproof. I mean, everything about it. You know, the tunability of the Fusion Pro model is great. You can go in and tune the punch. You can turn the FOC on or off. You know, just lots of different settings, and they just work so well. I think, to me, the only downside would be if you're really limited for space, if you're doing like a comp crawler setup or anything with like a really low, like a too low trans or a different, you know, custom trans setup, the limitations really become apparent in terms of the size of the motor. You know, you might not really be able to fit it in every application, but you know, something like this, like, you know, a larger vehicle, any type of trail rig, I highly recommend the Hobbywing Fusion. It is by far the best system that I have used. I've never had a single issue with any of them that I've tried. Super reliable, and they just perform incredibly well. No issues with heat buildup. It's just amazing. So you see here, you know, there are limitations. This is a very difficult climb, and I've only had a few rigs that I can do this with consistently. And it's really a matter of just positioning the wheels just right. You know, once you fall into that crack, it just becomes a little too steep. You really have to keep, you know, your driver's side wheels on the left side of that. And because it's kind of craggy there, it becomes a little difficult. But you see this truck, if you get the right line, you work it a little bit, goes right up, you know. And again, these tires, I mean, really impressed now that I have the right inserts in them. I thought they were going to be throwaways. I was like, I've never really had any RC four-wheel drive tires that were phenomenal. So I thought I was going to end up just tossing these, and turns out they work really well. This section up here, I'm not able to get with this truck, but to be fair, I think the only rig I've ever had kind of continue this climb up was my G-Speed, which is like a low CG build. And I had to work at it for like probably 45 minutes to find the perfect line to make it up. And I may have found a different line with my Capra four-wheel steer, which is kind of cheating. I think maybe that made it, but a very different line than the G-Speed did. So I really didn't expect this truck to do that. It's just really, really super, super difficult. But again, for something that in my mind, I drive this more as a trail truck where I want to just show up at whatever trails I'm going to, throw it on the ground, trail it in, find some hard stuff to play on, and just overall have a really good, fun experience. I think this is the perfect truck if you want to go and find a hiking trail and just trail it to the point where you find some really cool technical features and then just play around on and see if you're able to find some cool lines that you can do. This is such a good truck for that because it's ultra capable, but it's not annoying in any way. If you were to take like a full-on comp crawler and try to trail it and just drive it down a hiking path, it's going to be annoying because the overdrive is too much. It's just not going to handle well. You know, you're probably going to have a tiny little battery in it, and it's just not going to work well for that application. Whereas this truck is kind of the perfect all-arounder. It's super easy to live with, super manageable in a trail type fashion, but then it's also really, really capable, but really controlled and fun to drive. And that's it, guys. Stay tuned for more, and I'll see you in the next video. Later.